the obligatory question. I mean, what is this game? What is this rivalry to Toledo? What does Toledo mean to you?
Well, it's a fun week to get ready for Toledo. We look at this week and game as a win-win situation. We feel for the first time in a long time we are the underdog again, and it's nice to be an underdog going into a game. Toledo's going to tell us a lot about ourselves. We view Toledo as the team to beat. We have all year. They're a special team even without Nama, and what a devastating injury for our league, let alone Toledo. She just brings so much attention to our league. But it's a great opportunity for us. You're not scared to play in this environment. It's just a great environment. There's not a better environment in the MAC to play than the BG Toledo game in Savage. And so it's a really, really exciting game for us. It's going to tell us a lot about ourselves. We feel they're clearly the most physical team. They're the best defensive team in the league. So they're really going to challenge us and tell us a lot about ourselves. And that's where we need to be. If we're going to peak at the right time, we all realize, coming out of the Super Bowl Sunday, the best team doesn't always win the Super Bowl throughout the course of the body of work. The team that peaks at the right time and is playing the best now. And so we're all striving to be peaking at the right time. So this Toledo game is going to tell us a lot about ourselves and what we need to do over the last 3-4 weeks of the season.
How much noticeably did Trish have to back up the truck when Nama went down?
I don't think any program in this country you can take your best player off a team and not be affected. But what you have to give Toledo credit for is they haven't built a team to win just this year. They've now built a program. And Trish Cullip's done a great job, and you see that. We thought they were going to be the dominant team, not just this year, but they have put themselves in position to be the dominant team for a while. And so there's obviously initial adjustments when you ever have an injury. And unfortunately, the MAC's had way too many injuries as star players this year. But they have all the pieces in place still to clearly be the MAC representative this year in the NCAA tournament. We, as a program, look at them as the team to beat.
Scouting them without Nama, how is that different than with Nama? What have you noticed differently in terms of what they run, or what they try to run?
They're very balanced. I think that you try to take away inside play and how they can dominate and just throw the ball into Yolanda. Yolanda's a specimen, and there's very few people like her in our league. Then they kill you with their three-point shooting. And Courtney Ingersoll, what a great leader she is, and she's having an unbelievable shooting year. And her and Haley Lynn then kill you from the outside. If you try to take away penetration from Dortch, then it opens up the easier inside touches. If you concentrate on shooters, now your penetration gaps for Dortch or your inside catches to Richardson are bigger. So they have great balance, and as you take away one thing, they can beat you and hurt you in other ways. And that's what the championship teams through the years have looked like in the MAC, that they're not one-dimensional. If you take away one thing, they have good balance, and that's through some of our championships. We've had good balance, and that's what you see in this year's Toledo team. So maybe the ball isn't stuck or put in Nama's hand as much. They share the ball more. It has great balance, which sometimes is even harder to guard than knowing one person's going to dominate with the ball in their hands.
So that means you will be looking to try to take away this, assuming that the other aspect won't hurt you quite as badly as what you're trying to take away.
Well, I think it's a chess match. As soon as we decide and start to do one thing, Coach Cullip and Toledo will counter and attack us a different way. As we make that adjustment, they're going to counter and make another adjustment. It's going to be a great chess match. I think both teams have had success this year defensively. Both teams have had success rebounding. Both teams have been good some nights offensively, and then both of us have struggled offensively some nights. So, it's going to be a fun game, and not necessarily the best team's going to win. It's going to be who's better for that 2 hours. And as I said to our team, when I look at Toledo play an A game and BG play an A game, Toledo's A game is really, really good. we might be the more consistent team 23 games into the year, but when Toledo plays their A game, they're probably the better team.
So you're the Patriots and the Giants.
I haven't given it a thought like that. But,
you said
I'm-
the Super Bowl,
yeah.
so you were
So
making
I look at us as an underdog, especially in Savage, with a win-win situation. They beat us, we're still in first place. Our goals don't change to try to concentrate and find a way to be a top 4 seed, try to put ourselves in position to win the MAC East. Ultimately, if we get close enough to have an overall championship in the regular season, would be great. But nothing will change after the game Saturday. We will be in first place. It's just going to be a matter of by how many games. So we look at it as a win-win and to learn a lot about ourselves.
How much better prepared are you now to play a team the caliber of Toledo than if you would have played them at the start of the MAC season? How much have you developed as a team and progressed?
You know, I think the Dayton game was eye-opening for us. Toledo beat that Dayton team, and Dayton almost beat us by 40. So is Toledo 50 points better than us? I'm not sure. They might be Saturday. But you know, we understand more about ourselves. We understand that we have to play good defensively and rebounding to win, because offensively, there's some nights that we just aren't a pretty team this year. But you have to give our kids a lot of credit. We've been really, really consistent. We haven't lost a game since before Christmas. And so they find ways to win games. We don't always play an A game. We aren't always pretty, but this team is competitive and rises to challenges and finds ways to win. And I'm really, really proud of the season we're having. But we have a lot of goals in front of us that we'd like to accomplish.
Is that almost a point of pride now for the kids that, you know, we're going to scrap and get it done one way or another?
Yes, I think that we all take pride in finding ways to the finish line, but at the same time, we're frustrated over the last 2 weeks that we haven't played very good basketball. I've really prided myself and our coaching is through the years of peaking at the right time, and a little bit it's been out of my control because of my recent health situation, that I haven't done a great job of fine-tuning and peaking this team at the right time. And there's a sense of urgency now within our program to find some sharpness, some better play, because we know, looking at our play over the last 2 weeks, that we haven't played our best basketball. And we pride ourselves at peaking at the right time. And so there's a sense of urgency in our program to find that. And I haven't been around 24/7 like I typically have been. And so I take a lot of blame in that, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself now in these last 4 weeks to try to peak again.
Speaking of your health, how are you feeling?
You know, fine. Still, you know, a little bit more emotionally still probably messed up through the whole the stroke than physically. I still undergo tests. I'm tired of doctors. You know, I'm still seeing doctors on a regular basis, and we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's with everything. But I have my energy back. I'm working long days again, but I'm being smarter and listening to my body. My coach's staff are really working hard, and so it's day to day. You know, I undergoing tests still, but it's, you know, I'm in a much better place than I was, you know, just a few days ago.
Is there anyone that told you, maybe you don't want to come back this year? I mean, were they saying it was okay, or were you fighting to get back out there? What kind of dangers were they saying for you to be even back out?
You know, the doctors pretty quickly after the incident cleared me to coach. We knew we needed to change the way I coach, the fervor at I coach, but I couldn't be afraid to be myself. They equated it to an injury, that I wasn't going to do any good for anyone if I wasn't comfortable myself, that the injury was healed per se, and that I could do what I normally do. And so, you know, I had some of those doubts when you first get diagnosed with a word like a stroke, that would I ever coach again? Would I certainly coach this year? But the doctors assured me right away that medically I was going to be cleared to coach again. And I needed to make some lifestyle changes, and I needed to make some changes to the way I coach, but that it was only a matter of time that I became comfortable again and I felt better again. that I could give the team the energy that they deserve, and certainly that I want to give them.
Do you still feel the tension in the head that you're talking about on Saturday?
I feel the tension in my head because I have a head cold. I still think there's some rockets up there right now with the Toledo preparation in my head. They can give anyone a headache, but nothing more than a head cold right now. So.
You mentioned on Saturday that your team was tired. And looking at it, you've only really had one player on this team who has experienced this much playing time in a season. You've had, you have transfers, and you have younger players, and you had Slagle was injured. So really only Chrissy has ever played this much in one season. How are you adjusting to getting these girls prepared for what you're saying, the end of the third quarter and the start of the fourth quarter?
Well, I think the bye week helped us and gave us a couple days off. I also think you got to curtail your practices as the season goes on, and you can't beat them down the hours that you do in practice. And at this point, it's a lot of fine tuning and mental preparation as much as physical preparation. So you got to find that balance where you don't lose your sharpness, but you are keeping them with a high degree of energy near the end of the season. It's a long season for freshmen. The high school season is coming to an end, and we're getting into the most important part of the season. And that's what I think is just so unwritten about this team, or talked about this team. We have 9 freshmen and sophomores on the roster. We only had one player returning this year that had ever averaged over 4 points in their collegiate career, and we're sitting there 20-3 and winners of 20 of our last 21 games. And 2 of our 3 losses, we had the lead in the last minute of the game. So they've been amazingly consistent, considering the youth and the inexperience that this team has had. And now I've got to be careful that this team doesn't lose its sharpness, its edge down the stretch, because we're young, and we might get a little bit mentally and physically fatigued through a long season. And the pressure that this team puts on themselves to continue to have excellence.
Perhaps in a game of this one coming up and then going into the MAC tournament and beyond, how fearful are you about the free throw shooting?
Well, free throw shooting is it is what it is. It's not much I can control. And I'm the same coach that we led the nation last year in free throw shooting. This year we're not doing so well. But I think free throw shooting is also a matter of who gets there. If we get the right people there, we're going to shoot well. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed when we get some people that have struggled this year to the foul line. But bottom line, if for us to have success, we've got to be able to get to the foul line. And it's going to be a tremendously physical game on Saturday. And we have a officiating crew that lets you play. So, we've got to find a way to earn trips to the foul line because it's such a big part of who we are.
Real quick, I'm sorry to go back to your health again. How tricky is it for you to, I know you said you had to change that style. How tricky is it for you to do that? And can you think of any instances in the last week where the old Curt would have done this, but the new Curt now has to force himself to do this?
Yeah, I have to get my point across sometimes differently. I was animated and very demanding at practice today, but there was a stretch in practice, for example, that we had 3 straight turnovers. And I might have blown a gasket in years past and really lit them up verbally and challenged them. And this time, more basically, we're better than that, and a different approach to those turnovers. And there's always some running reminders that are helpful when you're making too many mistakes that they don't like either. So, there's just some times where I gotta pick my battles. Is basically, the change. I've got to pick my battles. I'm going to still be explosive. I'm still going to be the demanding, animated coach at times, but I can't be probably in the amount or the extent that I've been in the past.
Coach, a philosophical question, if you would, please. Because both your program and UT have been built to a degree by bringing in transfers to fill holes of different. How important are transfers to the 2 programs?
Transfers can be very beneficial to the programs when you do your due diligence and find out that they're leaving for the right reasons and that they're great character kids. I think there's transfers out there every year that you're intrigued about, but in further investigation, you wonder if they're chemistry killers. You wonder if they have the character that you believe in within your program. And I think when you look at the transfers in our program, they were transferring for the right reasons, and they're unbelievable people first before players. And when you look at a Baumgartner and a Crunch Jones, who were Ohio kids, and for what I know them as, good character kids, again, they can be a huge boost to your program. But I think we're all careful on that transfer out there that would be a chemistry killer.
Any other questions?
John, philosophically, as good as Toledo is, and as good as Bowling Green is, in the recruiting wars, when you sit in a home or you sit in front of a recruit, and you're Toledo and BG, and you can talk about championships, and you can talk about huge crowds, and you can talk about winning, it's still different even than some middle-of-the-road Big Ten teams sitting in front of them. So there's times, the first time around in recruiting, that we lose people to power conferences, that when they get to those places, realize that the personal touch and all of the chemistry and the family and the togetherness of your team behind the scenes that they heard about through the recruiting process got overshadowed by a big conference name, a big conference school. We don't always get those guys the first time around, but they realize when they get to some of those places that it's not always cracked up to be what they thought, and we have an opportunity to get them the second time around. And that's why I think that Toledo and us, with our success, with our crowds, with how we build our programs, with that family approach, that we're really attractive to some people that may view that they made a mistake the first time around.
Do you sometimes go into that recruiting the first time thinking, we may be in on the first time, but we're really recruiting them for the second time?
Without question. You have to get in those battles knowing the percentage of you landing certain kids at times is less than 50-50, but will it pay dividends somewhere down the line? You have to recruit those kind of kids, even though at times the first time around you might be the long shot.
We talked about this game hardcore, but how special is it whenever you go against a good friend like Tricia?
Well, a good friend, but I love coaching against great coaches. Tricia Cullop challenges me, our program. Tricia's rise with Nama's arrival to Toledo and the physicality that she's brought to that program, it has made our program better. We were winning, but Toledo's rise has made us become even a better program. I hope our program has made Toledo strive to be even better. And so I love good chess match, and you don't win them all. We've lost the last 2 regular season games by 1 point. But if you're a competitive person, you love to coach against good coaches. So the good friend aside, I like playing against Toledo because it challenges you to try to be sharp. And when you're not, you learn a lot about your program, which in the long run helps you. So again, it's a win-win situation this weekend.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
Thank you.